Before we dive into your music, I wanted to ask a little bit about another artist, Doja Cat, who I know Clams you had the opportunity to speak with and share an interview with a couple of years back. What do you learn from sharing a conversation like that with another artist? And for all of you, what do you sort of learn and what do you feel like you take from just having conversations with other bands in your daily life?
I personally learned not to ask her about her family. That's what I learned about that whole situation. I love Doja Cat, and probably I don't have a good grasp on a lot of those things in terms of like what people with the media and stuff like that want to talk about. They asked me to do it. I had an interest in her from a prior album, a good song "Go Down" and stuff like that. So what I probably should have done is my homework a little better. And I probably should realize that when they tell you to send questions to their people, they don't actually read them. So as I was speaking to her, she was quite surprised. She was very sweet. She told me to fuck off in a very nice way. If I can say that, and I still love her to death. I love the music, and I love her, and so I'd suggest to the kids out there, if you're ever doing stuff like that, do your homework, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that like talking to other bands is, I don't really think that that's such a thing as much anymore, because it's like not that much of a scene. I just feel like it's more like artists have more of an interaction with their fans than other bands now. It's like, I think if there is any kind of form of media, it tries to portray it sometimes that there is this kind of like communication between bands, but I think most communication between bands is very base level. Like there's most significant interactions is very direct now from artist to like consumer, really, and I think that's where the conversation is now more so than between like scenes of artists like conversing. I think people are just like doing their own thing, really, especially since like pandemic and stuff. It's just like band that you're in, and then people that come to your shows, if you're lucky to have shows at this point, or if they're on. That's what I think, anyway. I mean, that's my experience, but yeah.
It's interesting we bring up shows, because I was going to ask, how would you compare the live version of the band to the recorded version? What do you feel are some of the key differences there, if there are?
Not that much, really. I mean, to be honest, like the way that we play the songs now, or the way it is the way we perform them when we made them live in the studio. We did overdubs and stuff, but like the lineup for the band right now is exactly the same lineup that was in the studio. So it feels pretty similar, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. All of our other albums have been really like basically gigs in studios. Really, like
that's a good way.
The last two records we did in literally 2 days in the studio, and we did like 1 day of playing like the songs back to back, like 5 songs at a time, and then we just did a 1 day of overdubs, and that was it. So yeah, pretty much as close as you can get to a gig, I think.
That's a great way to describe it. It's still a gigs in a studio.
Yeah.
It really was. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
What did you gain from that process then when you went in and worked with Al Doyle and Joe Goddard this time? What did you take from that helped you this time around when it's a little bit different?
I don't know. Maybe just getting through live takes is always a little bit easier when you feel like you've done that quite a lot of times. Especially like we did it on tape before and stuff, so we felt like you didn't so much get the red light syndrome thing as much as maybe we would have done if we hadn't done those 2 records live, especially in those kind of circumstances. But what we mainly got from them was more just like, they were very much into like synthesizers and things like, I mean, obviously like Quinn's very much into that stuff too. So there's a lot of like that kind of side of things that I don't really know about that was on this record. I kind of think that was like the main difference. Bit more electronic in certain areas, I think. Yeah.
I think one of the quotes I read from you as well, I'm not sure who it was that said it, but you said that working with them gave you time to think in the studio more so than on previous outings.
Yeah.
What are some of the positives and negatives of that extra space that you have in the studio?
For me, the negative is that thinking too much, basically, if that makes any kind of sense. But the positive was that we did have a little bit of space to like do certain things differently, and I don't know whether it is the case or not, but personally, it felt like evolving. At the loss of maybe a few other things that happened, but for me personally, that's how it felt. Not to say one's better or one process is better. There's just different things. And for me personally, it was a good change. But we'll probably do the next one in a day, in an hour. Who knows?
Like I think, for us it's just weird because I think it was just like a moment where we were like, it would be nice to, because we don't see each other collectively that much anyway, unless we're doing gigs, we all have other projects that we focus on like day to day. So it's like, we just thought it might be nice to like not feel like we're quickly going to the pub or something and then made an album and then we just were home again. It's like nice to like just say like hang out for a bit longer than a day to do something that's quite significant. Basically, I think that's kind of it. But yeah, definitely like a lot of overthinking. Which is like, I don't know, this is a classic thing, isn't it? Like too much. I don't think self-reflection is too much of a musical trait of the band, really. It's more about just like going with your instincts. But sometimes it's good though, because like it's just like a balance of working out like a new way of moving on, I guess.
And I think also with like what Ben was saying with the instinct thing too, is we're always usually, or not always, but usually having a time constraint, so we have no kind of choice. Do you know what I mean? So it's like whether it's like trying to get together and do something or record something, we're always like, oh, time is of the essence in a certain way. So yeah, it's like. And the good thing about Dan was that he saw that like with us and was like, yeah, if he wanted to, he probably would have given us a month to do something, but he saw the sort of magic in what with those first couple or the second and third album about capturing the sort of live, the don't overthink it and all that stuff, and it was great, and with the new situation. It was more of a case, probably more so me angling. I don't think anyone else, or maybe Adam as well, or all of us didn't. It was just sort of like, oh, I had this fixation where I needed more time, and I wanted to get that. And not that it was my decision purposely, but it was like, that's like, I think trying it out anyways, and at least seeing like what we would do without at least some of that not sort of in the equation of that, yeah. Without waffling on like a total C word.
I guess it's interesting because we've talked about these two not completely opposing, but quite different processes of getting to your sound. How would you describe the role of chaos in the band's sound, do you think? What does that word mean to you in the context of your music?
I think chaos is one of those words which is quite fun because it can be used in many different ways. But like, I think we all like to feel a certain element of, like in terms of performance, it's like we take ourselves seriously as like musicians for sure. But I don't think it's like a good gig if there isn't like an element of chaos, because it's like, it feels like it's one of those kind of music where it's like, it's kind of weird to not feel like you're sort of slightly out of control when you're playing it, because I think the whole point of the music is that it's trying to translate fun, and I think fun is quite a chaotic emotion. So we've had some gigs where it just the vibe hasn't been correct, and we play it like very straight, and we play it very accurately, but it wasn't chaotic enough to actually like entice people into having fun, and that's a disappointment for us. So I don't think it's chaos in a sort of like aggressive or like particularly like hectic way. It's just chaos in a way which like induces fun. I think that's kind of the idea. Just making people have a good time. Good time should be slightly chaotic, I think.
Yeah.
No
rules.
Do you want to sit down here? I think you should. Take the mic. Take the mic.
We got the mic.
One of those things where like you have to hold the doll to talk.
Yeah.
Tennis ball.
Exactly that. Maybe you just sit.
Crash the board. I thought you were just holding this. It seems so nice school. Yeah. I got nothing to say right now.
With what you were saying there about fun and that sort of idea, is it almost like you take the music very seriously when you're working it out for the first time, and then once you've got it pinned down, you can sort of have a bit more space?
No, it's the opposite. I think.
Opposite.
Yeah, it's like we don't take it seriously whilst we're making it, and then once we've sort of nailed it in, we kind of then start taking it seriously, because I don't know. I just think generally, like, we've become slightly more, like polished. Yeah, and I don't know. I just think there's a certain element because we're kind of writing like pop songs now, whereas it used to just be like a sort of like free jam, like mashup basically of riffs and ideas, and Clams like saying like catchphrases over whatever we were playing. But now it's because we're like basically writing structured songs. It does feel like we put pressure on ourselves just to make sure we deliver them now, but it's fine. It's good. It's a different thing. Like we've kind of moved on a bit, so yeah.
There's not always a reason or rhyme to it though, is there? It's like, I guess it's like whatever comes first. You can kind of have those mess around things.
Yeah.
And they turn into serious stuff, or you can maybe have something that you've had in your head for years. And
Yeah.
It's like, man, finally I can use this for something.
Yeah. I feel like definitely when we were making the last album, we were definitely having a lot of fun when we were making it. So, yeah, it was fun.
With the first single as well, Wildflowers, it feels like with that song you're maybe writing against something in a way more directly than you have been previously. If you're writing against something in a song, it feels like you're writing at something. Does that change things in any way? Does it make the process easier, or
Writing, I say that again, sorry.
writing against something, if you know what I mean?
Not
With
really.
the sort of lyrical content of it. I can't remember what the exact
Against
phrase is. But
something,
yeah.
That's Clams territory.
Oh, you mean just because I'm saying fuck this and fuck
Yeah.
that and fuck all
off.
that? Yeah.
Landlord.
Yeah, it's just literally day-to-day stuff. And actually at that point, I mean, to be honest, it was like we were working on that. Well, we weren't working on it per se, but I was working on and trying to figure out how to do the lyrics because there was a specific song that was that influenced that track, at least in my head. And then I was like, oh shit, how do I do that? But I kept on having images of a Talking Heads song in my head. And then it just literally came to just being so pissed off with myself about trying to figure out, like, because I'm not a singer, I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, oh, I do this, blah, 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 blah. And then I was just like, just having a fucking blast. And it was like the last thing of the day at the writing studio. I was there myself. And I was just like, I just had a laugh. And I sent it almost as a joke to everyone, like, oh, what do you guys think of this? And then everyone seemed to be okay with it. So that's how it happened. So it was kind of like a frustration of everything. It was a frustration of fucking being faced with eviction, fucking being in COVID, being like fucking being old, being everything. You know what I mean? Just like fucking everything. So it was like, but in a joke way, because this shit doesn't really matter. It's just getting the poison out, really. But it wasn't like a specific. It wasn't like I sat down and said, I'm gonna write this thing because I'm mad at all this stuff. I don't do that. But it was like, yeah, it just happened that way. No magic there. That's the cold truth.
I think there's a lot of like stuff that people probably miss in your lyrics because it's always a broad palette of subjects. Like even in one song, it doesn't really. I mean, I guess the difference is with that song, it's more a direct thing. It's like pick anything that you're pissed off about and then like kick against it.
100%.
So like very much state of mindy.
Yeah, and also I'll like write something and then in my head, because my brain's going million, I have to dissect it 100 times because I'm worried about, okay, I'm trying to say something but also leaving it surreal to people so that they can build their own sort of thing with a lot of the other with the other songs. That's just straight up because it wasn't even thinking. It was just like an aggressive sort of, not aggressive, but like a funny way to say, everyone's fucking frustrated right now. And,
the perfect storm actually, because it was like right at the time of COVID and all that, and everyone was kind of feeling the
and like
strain of all that.
COVID banger.
Perfect, perfect.
yeah.
I mean, when isn't the
COVID
general public got something to be pissed off about? I suppose, but like, it was a bit more.
And I always get like, oh, spelling things out. I always feel like it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of boring and things like that. But like, I think I kind of get, I think that gets lost in a lot of ways. Like I probably should spell things out because then people don't understand exactly what I'm saying. And, probably nobody can really, except for myself in my head or if I was playing it. But like 8 Minute Machines is a good example. It's another like funny thing. It was like, the George Floyd thing had just happened, and and I had got the news that it was 8 minutes that the guy was choked out for, but in typical my fashion, it turned out it was 9 minutes. But in my head, it was 8 minutes over and over and over and over. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to get into too much of that, like political shit and all that stuff. But I mean, it was just something that was very angry at that time, and yeah. But it's a typical process of mine. So it was like 8 minute machines. I just had it over and over in my head, choking 8 million dreams. They can do what they please, that shit. And then the contrast of these machines were also saving people at the time with COVID, because COVID was really scary. And, they were using these machines to keep people alive. And the irony was that is that you have these fucking horrible people that are supposed to be protecting people, choking people out, while you have these stupid machines saving them. So it's like, you never, no one would ever get that, but, and it turns into a slogan because it's like, I just like, whatever. But that's sort of like something, or super cool as well is another stupid thing where like, it's not stupid at all, but it was, we were dealing with an eviction thing in my family, and like a guy showed up on a motorcycle, to make a long story long. And he was like, oh, look, I'm gonna put a bid on this house, and if I get it, I'm gonna be your new landlord, right? And so I was like, oh, fucking awesome, this guy's super cool. Or they came up with the word super cool, but I put it up with the story of the guy in the motorcycle coming and like saving the day and all that shit. But in typical my fashion, the guy didn't get the apartment anyway. So it's like, yeah. But I'm probably talking too much.
Artistic license.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, or if it's too much to talk about. I don't know.
That parallel you mentioned there, though, between George Floyd getting choked out and the machines that were supposed to be saving people from being choked. How do you cope with that as an artist? Because it feels so perfect in the way that it interlinks artistically, but it's also such a horrible thing.
Well, it's like anything. It's like, how do you promote a fucking concert right now when people getting bombed in the Ukraine, or you know what I mean? Like I said, I don't want to get too into like, yeah. I'm not trying to be that person, because everything's a fucking contradiction from one thing to the other. There's people dying in fucking Palestine. You know what I mean? So it's like, so you have to balance all that stuff together, and then somehow still do what you do or what we do, and then also not sound like a douchebag in the process.
Soapbox or something.
Yeah. Because it's not. I'm not about that either. You just have to do certain things to, I guess, calm yourselves. I guess I'm talking for me personally, not for. Yeah.
I think it's true.
Yeah, so it's just shit like that.
The next album is going to be a complete concept album about toxic masculinity.
Yeah. Yeah.
That idea of doing things to calm yourself, can music be one of them? Can be creating music be a vehicle for that?
Yeah, man. I think that's why we do it.
Yeah, touring, not so much.
Nah.
Definitely making
a vehicle for what?
Yeah, like what you were saying about calming yourself down when all these things start to sort of boil up in the frustration.
Yeah, I think music, yeah, definitely. I think that's why we all do so many projects, us individually, is because we're all trying to make sure that music is the mainstay thing in our lives, really. So obviously must mean that there is some sort of like need to do it,
Yeah, it's like a compulsion part, isn't it? And then
it definitely feels like work, but like that's a good thing as well. It's not like there's illusions about like, oh yeah, we're doing it for fun, or doing it for like kind of these reasons which are like, oh, I can do it, it makes me feel kind of chill, and it's a hobby. It's like, I think like the government especially have made, especially arts, like feel like it should be like only a hobby or something recently. And it's actually
not really
like
well supported, is it?
Yeah, and like for us, it's like it's a graft. Like it's really hard work to try and make it something that's a mainstay thing in your life, that's driving your life forward. So to say it's calming is like one of the many facets of it, but like it's kind of more like everything really. Because I think almost like I use it to calm myself down, but I usually listen to podcasts to calm myself down now, actually, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, music is like really the driving force for like excitement and like survival, really, for me. Yeah.
I guess you like try and get to that place where you like, it's like almost like trying to put a puzzle together, and then once you've done that, that's the like the moment at the end where you're like completely relieved, you've like done it again, kind of thing.
Yeah, but that lasts for like 5 seconds, and then you get anxiety about, is it good though? I always have that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's like little pockets of satisfaction and I guess calm or whatever. Like you know, like when you're on stage, you do it live and great for the first time. It's like, that's like, good feeling. I guess maybe it's more relief. I don't know. Not calm. I don't know.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Do you feel like, I mean, possibly individually, but also as a band, do you think you're more fueled by self-doubt or conviction?
Conviction
Definitely
for me.
conviction, yeah. Like I think if there was any element of self-doubt in what we did, we wouldn't do it. It would just sound completely stupid. Yeah. Because like the whole point of it is that it's meant to be just like quite instinctive and direct. So I don't think you could make music that is like that with like mass amounts of self-doubt. I just don't think it would respond or be to people.
Yeah, we're all. There's no, absolutely no. Oh shit!
I'm not you, am I?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, of course, I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have self-doubt about stuff. Like, you know, but that's why it's good to, I don't know. You know, like when you like write a song or something, you're like, you know, you're always like second guessing yourself. That's kind of healthy because like otherwise you're just gonna think everything is like great that you like that you make, and it's not always like. So, I don't know. Yeah, self-doubt's kind of a healthy thing as well. You know? It's a healthy mix of the two, I'd say.
You've got to have like a ratio of it. But I'd say I definitely have an element of it, but I'd say more on the conviction side.
Yeah, and for me too, my personal life, tons of self-doubt, but within this band, it's nothing but confidence. Like, because I know all these guys are amazing, and it's like, yeah, I know it's gonna be good. Even when it's shit, it's still gonna be better than most people out there. That's how I feel, honestly. So,
yeah, I feel like if we have a bad gig in Warmduscher, it's usually like not as bad as a bad gig, and like a couple other projects I played in, which were slightly more introspective or something. It's just fueled. Like, I've been in a lot of projects which is basically fueled by like a lot of reflection and kind of like these moments of like, you know, like kind of honesty in terms of its like lyrical content and just like very revealing music emotionally. So if you have a bad gig in those circumstances, it can really be bad because it's like such a sensitive situation. But if we have a bad gig, it's usually just like still quite hilarious. Anyway. So there's always that, which I think is something to remind myself of.
Yeah. And then if we get really down, we just get in the van and replace band names with the word anus. and that always helps. That always helps lighten the mood. Wolf anus, I love them, but that's a good one. It's not in a disrespectful thing. It's like it's just a funny thing.
Right.
Yeah, they're awesome. Yeah, so it's just funny.
Warm anus.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a funny word to put in anything. Like the Butthole Surfers when they say Anus Presley. I always go back to that. Anus Presley's a good one. Anyways, you can cut that out if you want.
Nah, that's definitely staying in.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Cheers.